7 ways Britain permanently doomed Africa to failure. There is not a single doubt that the British forces had great influence on Africa and distorted the continent through colonialism. Britain left an imprint in every corner of the continent that is still affecting the majority of the countries that were under the ruling power. They may have introduced fresh ideas to Africa, as in modernization, but the flaws of colonialism cast a shadow on the benefits, and the continent now has way more issues to deal with. Today, we will be looking into 7 ways Britain permanently doomed Africa to failure. Hey guys, welcome to another amazing video from your favorite channel, Splash Splash. Please don't forget to smash the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified whenever we post a new awesome video. Let's dive right into it. The British forces dominated different regions from North Africa, much of West Africa, and huge lands in the South and East Africa with an agenda to conquer, rule, and exploit these parts for their resources and human labor. Their activities in the continent had a massive impact, and millions of Africans are still reeling from its effects decades after the end of the colonial era. Surely, when you introduce a completely new system to a place with strong cultures and beliefs, it alters the functioning system, and not in a good way. Britain's additions and subtractions to and from the continent created a big ball of problems, which is clearly what most African countries that suffered at their hands are struggling with today. Here are our deductions on how Britain doomed Africa to failure. Number 1. Internal conflict and conflict resolution. Internal conflict is just one of the many challenges that Africans face today, which is as a result of the political and economic practices and also the influence of Westerners in African affairs. It is not entirely the fault of the Westerners though, as local issues also set off disputes among the people, but the dynamics had already been altered by the British forces, which was a catalyst to the current issue of conflict in the continent. Africa, before the British came, had a cultural approach to settling conflicts and keeping peace, and also meted out punishment to offenders, but with the influence of Britain, all that has been turned upside down. Number 2. Altered cultural setting. Africa was once known as a continent with rich, vibrant cultures and unique traditional systems, like the regional divisions of kingdoms, empires, and states, but all of that has been altered. Although the continent still retains some of its culture, most of it was impacted by the British colonialists. Britain implemented their lifestyle into the African traditional system, dampened Africans' expression of their culture, and imposed their Western identity on the piece of Africa. Going by facts gathered, nearly all African countries that suffered at the hands of Britain speak British English as their first language, have adopted Western ways of dressing, Western food, and even Western weddings are the order of the day. Number 3. Modernization with no means of implementation. Modernization is actually one of the benefits of colonialism, but it is also pretty useless without implementation, which is what the Africans lack and part of what is making the continent rely greatly on foreign assistance and aid. Britain may have introduced construction, education, and medicine to the continent, but since these additions are Western ideas, it set Africa up for failure after the colonial era when the British returned to their homeland. Most African countries are still struggling till this day to keep these ideas afloat and are highly dependent on European support. Number 4. Africa was good until they brought the disease. So, if you're not African, this point might trigger you, but hear me out. It is no news that colonial masters introduced medicine to the continent, but report has it that they also seem to have brought most of the top deadly diseases with them to Africa. These diseases include measles, tuberculosis, and smallpox from cattle, related to cowpox, influenza, and whooping cough from pigs and dogs are also on the list of diseases introduced to the continent, alongside the number 1 killer of Africans, malaria, which kills most Africans today. Since foreign medicine was never an African thing, most African countries are still struggling in their health sectors and can't fully cater to these diseases. Number 5. Alienating Africans from their traditional religion. From what we've gathered, Christians currently make up for 49% of Africa's population, with Muslims taking up 42%. I guess the remaining 7% is left for the various religions, of which traditional worship falls into this tiny percent. Christianity was introduced to the continent by the Europeans, and the first missionary to Africa was actually British, sent by the London Missionary Society to South Africa in 1840. Majority of Africans that were once deep in traditional religious practices no longer hold these beliefs, and the tiny population that still believe in traditional worship are being criticized and threatened that they have to practice in secret. Number 6. The issue of border division. The Europeans, in their scramble for Africa, had invaded, occupied, divided, colonized African territories. In order to claim lands, they had drawn out uneven border lines based on their individual preferences and their need for marking the territories they had captured. They had zero regard for the actual landowners, which was actually a disaster for Africans, and here's why. These borders were not clear-cut, and this led to an uneven distribution of the natives. People with no similarities whatsoever were factored together, and people who looked alike or shared certain characteristics were divided. Africa still suffers from this till today. Number 7. Marginalized Africans in the diaspora. Decades of oppression from colonialism gave birth to social issues of today like racism, apartheid, racial marginalization, and segregation. Africans and black demographics are on the receiving end of the harsh reality, as the roots of racism lies in slave trade and colonialism. Britain may express their interest in formerly colonized countries and claim to be open to engaging with people from these countries. It doesn't change the fact that the Africans and blacks are stereotyped and mostly viewed with the lens of being slave material. Hence, they are not guaranteed safety and are also treated differently abroad. That's it for today's video. Give it a big thumbs up and drop a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified whenever we post a brand new video. While you're here, check out these other videos that you definitely love.